The last time you watched this journey, you saw how I ended up on this completely unknown island, far away from the places I know, with no proper food, no clean drinking water, no shelter, and no idea what was waiting for me beyond the beach. When I first arrived here, everything looked almost peaceful from a distance. But once I stepped deeper into the island, I realized just how massive and wild this place really is. There were trees stretching higher than I could see, thick bushes covering areas that looked almost impossible to walk through, strange sounds coming from deep inside the forest, and a coastline that seemed to continue much farther than I had imagined. In the previous video, I showed you the beginning of this unbelievable survival journey, and today we are continuing from where we left off. This is now my second day alone on this unknown island, and the biggest challenge is no longer simply finding a place to sit down or getting through the night. The real challenge has become staying alive. I need water, I need food, I need shelter, and I need to understand this environment before it becomes dangerous. Right now, one of the most important things keeping me going is something that nature has provided almost perfectly for a situation like this: coconut water. After searching around the island, I discovered coconuts growing among the palm trees, and for me, finding them felt like discovering a natural survival kit. The coconut is incredibly useful because it can provide both liquid and food, and when you are alone in an unfamiliar environment, even something as simple as a coconut can completely change your situation. I carefully selected a coconut that looked mature enough, opened it, and finally had something refreshing to drink. That first taste of coconut water after spending so much time without reliable drinking water was one of those moments that reminded me why I have to keep moving forward. But I also know that I cannot depend on a single source forever. This island is much bigger than it looks, and I want to explore it properly, understand where the water sources are, discover what food might be available, and learn how to live here rather than simply survive for a few hours at a time. What you are seeing around me is only a small part of this enormous island. There could be fresh water somewhere deeper in the forest, there could be better shelter locations farther inland, and there could be fishing spots along another section of the coastline that I haven't discovered yet. So today, my mission is simple but difficult. I need to learn how to live with what this island gives me. I am not here with a refrigerator, a kitchen, a comfortable bed, or a supermarket just a few minutes away. Every meal has to be earned, every drop of water has to be found, and every decision matters. The first thing I want to do is understand my surroundings better. Before walking deeper into the jungle, I take a moment to look around and study the terrain. Survival is not only about physical strength, it is also about observation. If you move through an unknown environment without paying attention, you can easily waste energy, lose your direction, or walk into a dangerous situation. So I begin slowly, following the coastline while keeping familiar landmarks in sight. I want to make sure I can find my way back to my main camp area. Along the way, I look for signs of water, edible resources, and materials that might help me build a more comfortable shelter. I also keep my ears open because the sounds of the island can tell me a lot. Birds calling from certain areas may indicate trees with fruit or water nearby. Insects can reveal where vegetation is dense. The sound of waves tells me where the coastline is even when trees block my view. Everything here becomes information. Every leaf, branch, footprint, bird call, and change in terrain could potentially help me understand this place. After walking for some time, I decide to return toward the beach because another major challenge is waiting for me: food. The coconuts have helped with hydration and energy, but I need something more substantial if I am going to continue exploring this island. This is where fishing becomes my next objective. The ocean around this island looks full of life, but catching a fish without proper equipment is not as easy as it appears. I don't have a modern fishing rod, a reel, or a box full of hooks and artificial bait. I have to think like someone who has very limited resources. I begin looking for suitable materials around the beach and forest edge. A strong, flexible branch can potentially become part of a simple fishing setup, while plant fibers may be useful for making cordage if they are strong enough. I examine what I can find, testing branches for strength and flexibility rather than simply picking the first one I see. This is one of the biggest lessons of bushcraft. The environment is full of materials, but you have to understand which ones are useful and which ones are not. After gathering a few suitable pieces, I begin working on a basic fishing setup. It is not beautiful, and it certainly doesn't look like the fishing equipment I would normally use, but survival is not about making something perfect. It is about making something that works. I prepare my setup carefully and then head toward a section of the shoreline where the water appears calmer. The tide, the rocks, and the movement of small fish all give me clues about where I might have the best chance. I watch the water for several minutes before making my first attempt. At first, nothing happens. I try again. Still nothing. The sun continues moving overhead, and I can feel the heat becoming stronger. This is another reality of survival that people don't always understand. Time spent searching for food is time spent using energy, and when food is scarce, wasting energy can become a serious problem. So I remind myself to stay patient and avoid unnecessary movement. I change my position and look for a better fishing area. Near some rocks, I notice small fish moving with the current. That gives me hope. I prepare again and carefully place my line into the water. I wait. Nothing. I wait longer. Still nothing. Then suddenly, I feel movement. My attention immediately changes. I slowly react, trying not to pull too quickly. For a moment, it feels like I may have something. I pull carefully, but the fish gets away. It is disappointing, but this is survival. Failure is part of the process. I don't have the luxury of becoming frustrated and giving up. If I want to eat, I have to learn from what just happened. I study the water again and realize that I need to adjust my technique. The next attempt is more controlled. I remain still, watch the current, and wait. Minutes pass. The island is almost silent except for the waves, wind, and distant birds. Then once again, there is movement on the line. This time I react more carefully. I pull steadily, keeping control instead of rushing. Slowly, I bring the catch closer. When I finally see the fish near the surface, I realize that this could become my first real meal of the day. I carefully bring it toward shore, and for a moment I just sit there looking at it. It may be a small catch, but after spending a night and morning without a proper meal, it feels incredibly valuable. This is the strange thing about survival. Something that would normally seem insignificant can suddenly become extremely important. I now have to cook it safely. I do not want to eat raw food, and I need to make sure the cooking process is controlled. So I return to my camp area and begin preparing a small cooking fire in a safe location away from dry vegetation. Fire is one of the most important survival tools because it can provide warmth, light, cooking capability, and psychological comfort, but it also has to be handled responsibly. I clear the area around the fire, gather dry material, and prepare the fuel gradually. I start with small dry fibers and twigs before adding larger pieces of wood. After several attempts, I manage to get the fire going. The smoke rises slowly through the trees, and suddenly the camp feels different. Fire changes everything. The darkness that felt threatening during the previous night now seems less intimidating. I place the fish over the heat and watch carefully as it begins to cook. The smell is incredible, especially after being hungry for so long. But while the fish cooks, I realize something important. Catching food is only one part of survival. The bigger challenge is creating a sustainable routine. I cannot spend every day exhausting myself trying to find a single meal. I need to learn where resources are, where I can safely collect water, where I can find food, and how I can protect myself from the weather. That means improving my shelter. The shelter I had before was enough to get through the first night, but now I want something stronger and more organized. I begin collecting long branches and large palm leaves. The goal is to create a structure that can protect me from rain and direct sunlight. I look for a location that is not too close to the ocean, not directly underneath unstable branches, and not in an obvious drainage area where rainwater could collect. Choosing a campsite is just as important as building the shelter itself. After finding a better location, I begin placing the main branches to form a basic frame. This takes time because I am working alone, and every branch has to be positioned carefully. I use smaller branches to strengthen the structure and large leaves to create a layer of protection over the top. As I work, I start understanding how people living in natural environments for generations would have viewed these materials differently. To me, a fallen branch might look like useless wood, but here it can become part of a shelter. A large palm leaf can become roofing material. Plant fibers can become temporary cordage. Nature is not necessarily giving you a finished product. It is giving you raw materials, and survival means learning how to transform those materials into something useful. By the time the shelter begins taking shape, the sun is starting to move lower in the sky. I take a short break and return to the fire. The fish is now cooked, and I carefully remove it from the heat. This is my reward for the effort of the day. I sit near the shelter and take my first bite. It is simple food, but it tastes completely different when you have earned it yourself. There is no restaurant, no refrigerator, no plate prepared by someone else. It is just me, the island, the fire, and the food I managed to catch. That moment gives me a feeling of confidence that I didn't have when I first arrived. Yesterday, I was trying to understand how I would survive one night. Today, I am beginning to understand how I might survive another day. But I also know that confidence can become dangerous if it turns into carelessness. This island is still unknown to me. I don't know what is deep inside the forest. I don't know how the weather might change overnight. I don't know whether there are better freshwater sources somewhere beyond the areas I've explored. And I certainly don't know how difficult the coming days will become. So I decide that tomorrow my exploration will go farther. I want to map the coastline mentally, identify reliable coconut trees, search carefully for signs of freshwater, and investigate areas of the island that I haven't reached yet. I also want to improve my fishing technique because one fish is not enough to guarantee survival. The key is consistency. If I can catch fish regularly, collect coconuts responsibly, find safe water, and maintain a good shelter, then my chances of lasting here will become much stronger. As evening approaches, the island changes once again. During the day, everything is bright and visible, but as the sun disappears, shadows begin covering the forest. The sounds become louder. Birds settle into the trees, insects become more active, and the waves continue hitting the shore in a rhythm that almost sounds like a heartbeat. I sit beside my fire and look toward the dark horizon. Somewhere beyond that horizon are places filled with people, roads, lights, houses, and everything familiar. But here, all of that feels impossibly far away. For the first time, I begin to realize that this experience is not simply about being hungry or thirsty. It is about changing the way you think. When modern conveniences disappear, you start noticing things you normally ignore. You notice how valuable clean water really is. You notice how much effort goes into producing food. You notice how important a safe place to sleep can be. You notice the difference between comfort and necessity. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to understand that nature is both generous and unforgiving. It can give you coconuts, fish, wood, shade, and materials for shelter, but it also demands respect. If you stop paying attention, the same environment can become extremely difficult. So tonight, before sleeping, I check the shelter once again. I make sure the roof is secure, the fire area is controlled, and the things I need are kept close. I don't want to waste energy during the night looking for something I should have prepared earlier. I keep the camp simple. Everything has a purpose. The fire provides warmth and helps keep the darkness away. The shelter provides protection. The remaining coconut gives me something to drink later. The fishing equipment is kept ready for tomorrow. And the knowledge I've gained today is perhaps the most valuable resource of all. I now know that this island is not just a place where I am stranded. It is an environment that I can gradually learn to understand. Every day I stay here, I can become better at reading it. I can learn which areas are safe, which plants are useful, where fish move with the tide, where coconuts are easiest to collect, and where I might find fresh water. That is the real goal of this journey. I don't simply want to survive this island for one day. I want to learn how to live in it, step by step, using patience, observation, and whatever resources nature provides. And there is still so much of this island that I haven't seen. The coastline continues beyond the area I explored today. The forest becomes thicker, farther inland, and somewhere out there could be resources that completely change the way the survival journey unfolds. Tomorrow, I will go farther. I will explore deeper. I will search for water, food, and better materials. I will continue improving the shelter, continue learning bushcraft, and continue testing myself against an environment that is far bigger than I imagined when I first arrived. If you watched the previous video, you already saw how this journey began, but now you can see that the real survival story is only starting. I arrived here with almost nothing, but this second day has taught me that sometimes survival begins with the smallest things. A coconut, a branch, a few dry leaves, a simple fire, and the patience to keep trying after failure. I don't know exactly what tomorrow will bring, but I do know one thing. I am not ready to give up. This island is still unknown, the journey is still long, and there are still countless questions waiting to be answered. Can I find a reliable freshwater source? Can I catch enough fish to keep my energy up? Can I build a shelter strong enough to handle bad weather? What is hiding deeper inside this enormous island? And how much can I really learn from nature if I stay here long enough? Those are the questions that will take us into the next part of this journey. For now, the sun has disappeared. The fire is burning beside me. The shelter is finally beginning to feel like a real camp. And after another exhausting day, I can finally sit down, breathe, and look back at what I accomplished. Yesterday, I was simply trying to survive. Today, I caught my first fish, cooked my own food, drank coconut water, explored more of the island, and started building a place where I might be able to stay. It may not look like much compared to the comfortable life we are used to, but out here, every small achievement matters. This is only day 2, and if the island allows me to continue, tomorrow we are going even deeper. As the sun begins to disappear behind the trees, I realize that another difficult day on this unknown island is coming to an end. Today was completely different from yesterday. I started the morning with very little, but slowly I learned how to use what the island was giving me. The coconut water gave me energy and helped me stay hydrated, and after spending hours searching and fishing, I finally managed to catch a fish. Preparing and cooking that fish over the fire may sound like a simple thing, but out here, it feels like a huge achievement. Every bite reminds me that if I stay patient and keep learning, I can find a way to survive. Before darkness completely takes over, I decide to check everything around my camp one more time. I make sure the fire is under control, the shelter is secure, and the materials I collected today are kept together. I don't want to waste tomorrow searching for things I already have. The shelter is still basic, but it is becoming stronger every day. I have started to understand which branches are useful, which leaves provide better protection, and how important it is to choose the right location before building anything. Now I sit beside the fire and look toward the ocean. The waves are moving slowly, and the sound of the water makes the island feel peaceful for a moment. But I know this peace can change quickly. I am still far from civilization, and I still don't know what tomorrow will bring. There are huge parts of this island that I haven't explored yet. Somewhere beyond these trees could be a freshwater source, more food, better shelter materials, or even completely different terrain. Day 2 has taught me one important lesson. Survival is not about having everything you need. It is about learning how to do something with what you have. A coconut can become water and food. A branch can become a tool. Dry wood can become fire. Leaves can become shelter. And patience can become your greatest survival skill. Tomorrow, I want to explore much deeper into the island. I need to find a reliable source of fresh water, discover more food, improve my fishing technique, and make this camp stronger. I also want to understand what is beyond the areas I have already explored, because this island is much bigger than I imagined when I first arrived. For now, the fire is still burning, the night is getting darker, and I am ready to rest. I survived another day, but this journey is far from over. This was only the second day, and tomorrow could bring completely new challenges. So stay with me, because in the next part, we are going deeper into the unknown, searching for fresh water, exploring the island, and discovering just how far this survival journey can really go.